Hi, welcome to my session and workshop. My name is Youngbi Dale, and I am the CEO of Dale Consulting. Those of you who never met me and haven't heard of me, I guess the best way to introduce myself is that I was the one who trained the law enforcement statewide in Georgia after the Georgia shooting last March. I don't know if you remember the incidents. It's like the best way to introduce myself. And I also have been working with the different state entities, including U.S. Attorney's Office of Southern District of New York and New York State Office Victim Services in North Carolina, and I also work with Minnesota and many other task forces and state and federal entities. So today's presentation is called Beyond Massage Parlor. And if you guys see, let me see, sorry. Okay, beyond massage parlors. So I'm here to expose the Asian sex market literally beyond massage parlors. My presentation is based on my publication in 2017. I wrote a publication based on data sources available in English and Korean. There's a gap between what's been reported in Korean newspaper that are interviewing the victims as opposed to what's been reported in American newspaper. So I just thought that I have to be the one I don't have to be the one, but I think it'd be a good idea to build a bridge. So that was my first paper. And then my second paper came off of my first paper. It'll be money laundering in the U.S. sex market, and you will see why that's important subject to be addressed later on. So why Pennsylvania? I'm very passionate about the trafficking in Pennsylvania solely because as I train different professionals in New York, I realized there's so many victims, especially in the massage parlor market, that they are primarily dispensed through New York, mainly Flushing and other parts of New York that are primarily engaging in commercial sex market in the East Coast and also West Coast and Midwest. And lots of victims are coming from Pennsylvania. So I think that when anybody wants to tackle the criminal market in New York, that all the way goes, the network expands beyond not only just New York, but also Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania is a very critical state solely because of the location that are in relation to New York and also New Jersey. So I'm gonna give you a little bit of backgrounds. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the size of the Asian sex market. I know there's a report that came out that says Asian massage parlor accounts for $2.5 billion nationwide. But based on my Korean government studies that I have found, it's actually every massage parlor, the minimum amount of the annual revenue accounts for $500,000, and we have about little less than 900 massage parlors operating or advertised on robmap.com in Pennsylvania. And you also have some of the residential brothels, residential brothels, and there are others that are not known. So really you're looking at $440 million minimum as opposed to what was reported in English. So when we think about Asian sex market, you don't think of organized crime. You think that this is just the mom and pops or the husband and wife get together and have a little shop hiring migrant workers. So that's really not the case. I have found the Russian loan sharks are supporting some of the massage parlors or nail salons or these commercial sexual venues, and I've seen Armenian groups who are supporting the Armenian organized criminals supporting the massage parlors, and also cartels are somewhat invested in massage parlors, and they also work with the Chinese criminals to bring the woman into the United States. And when we see yakuzas, we don't really think of Yakuza as being present in the US. You don't know that, right? But Yakuzas make a lot of money off of commercial sex market. If they're not present in the United States, they're present in other countries and also reaping profit one way or the other from the prostitution of Asian women in the United States. And we also obviously have a Korean organized criminals, or if they work as individuals, they generally have background in their own country, and a lot of time they're fugitives and they're part of the organized criminals in their country. So according to the Korean government study, really when we think about organized crime in the United States, we think of drug trafficking, right? So drug trafficking, drug cartel, they make a lot of money. But with the Korean organized criminals and also Chinese organized criminals, in some ways, the commercial sex makes a lot more money than drug trafficking. Well, when it comes to Chinese, I couldn't tell you about how much of the commercial sex market is contributing to their profit. But with the Korean organized criminals, 74.9% comes from commercial sex market. So today we're going to go over 5 objectives. What are the various brothel models operating in the United States? The organized criminals network behind different brothel models, including massage parlors. What is the difference between Asian domestic sex trafficking victims? And what are the recommendations to improve the fight against Asian sex trafficking in the US? What are the various brothel models operating in the United States? So there are at least like 4 different models that are operating in the United States, but in Pennsylvania, I've found 2 out of 4 models that are operating. Mainly is massage parlor, and another one is indoor brothels. So we're gonna go over massage parlors and the network behind massage parlor first. So this is a network behind Asian massage parlors. This is just one example of a network. It was actually started by a fugitive from the United States. He started this was based in Australia in 2014. And this particular network behind the massage parlor, this is a brothel. This whole network was started by the same guy who was very active in massage parlor industry in the US. And when he became a fugitive, he ran away from the FBI, and he headed to Australia. And this is the first time the Australian market is actually introduced to the Asian commercial sex market. So the business model behind the massage parlor is similar to what's been happening in the United States. So this is a main contractor who's organizing the entire network. This is the victims that are recruited from South Korea, and this is the victim that are recruited from Australia. So you can see that the victims are recruited not just from South Korea, but also in Australia. So if you translate it in our country, so you can tell victims are not just recruited from Korea, but also in the United States. This is the actual profiteer or investor who's profiting off of the entire network. Okay, this guy is not in control over the entire network. However, he makes the most amount of money because he's funding the victim to get a private loan with extensive amount of interest rate. So this guy, the investor, is loaning this woman money for, I don't know, plastic surgery, money to be smuggled into, or money for visa fraud, money for a travel expense. And this is the financial source for this woman to enter the Australian sex market. Now, even though this guy is the one who's actually loaning the money, she's never met her investor. She does not also know who this main organizer is. So the main organizer is hired by the investor, but the main guy hire the upper contractor, and the upper contractor hire the lower contractor, and the lower contract finds the woman. Okay, so in reality, the lower contractor also doesn't know who the investor is. The lower contractor also never met this main guy is. So you see the complex network behind the Asian massage parlor. It's not just a mom and pop's business. This is very organized, sophisticated, complex market. So as in 2009, the Korean government study was published. When it was published, that they interviewed not just the survivors or victims, but also the managers and the actual operators. So based on that, I interviewed with the perpetrator, criminals, operators, managers. They said to be successfully able to run the Asian massage parlor, you need several elements or entities that are supporting your business. Okay, so you need a law enforcement, okay, or you need a broker who can bribe law enforcement. You need a delivery guy for condom, delivery for women, somebody who can recruit and deliver women. You need an accountant for tax evasion. You need a person who can help you launder money or send illicit proceeds to the entities or the accounts abroad. You also need a loan shark to keep the woman under their bondage. You also need a person who can help you with the fraudulent visa or ID for the woman, and also your expansion of the brothel operations. I don't know if you probably are more familiar with the study than mine. Polaris published a study on massage parlor business. The difference between the Korean study and my study, as opposed to this study, is that this study primarily interviewed the survivors through their different service providers. Right, so a lot of nonprofit. I don't know if the nonprofit in Pennsylvania were one of them, but this is very like a survivor-centered data. And also they collected the data from the public information like Yelp, advertisement, WeChat, whatever you can get a hold of as somebody who speaks English, and then be able to do the research on internet or talk to the survivors. As opposed to the other study that I mentioned to you is based on not just the survivor, but also the actual operators. Based on the Polaris study, this is the network model that was introduced. Based on my understanding of the network, based on the cases that I study, most of networks do not look like this. It's especially with the Korean networks that are a lot more complicated. This network is, somewhat feasible to. I've seen something like this on, Taiwanese case, or maybe Thai case. I don't know about. Well, maybe some Chinese case, but this doesn't apply to the universal cases. So there's another second brothel models that are operating in Pennsylvania. So this is called girlfriend experience brothels, or we can call it indoor brothels. They're women are a lot younger. They're not generally advertised on robmed.com, just like all the other massage parlors that are advertised, right? So based on the newspaper articles, a lot of time, and with the Polaris studies too, a lot of time that the people in general consensus is such that these women are victimized. The women who are being victimized are in their 50s, 60s or sometimes 40s, but that's not always the case. If you actually go into indoor brothels, that there you find women that are a lot younger than those in massage parlor. So I had an interview with the criminal at one point, and he said that massage parlor is the last resort, and there's a packing order in terms of like which brothel is higher up than the other. Excuse me. So the massage parlor is all the way bottom, he says, and then there is a residential brothel that is above massage parlor, and then above that, and there are other brothel types that are you can charge the buyers more, and then it's a lot more discreet and a lot more, I will say, expensive. And I wouldn't say I don't know if I want to say upper class-ish, but that's how they look at it within the criminal network society. So as you can tell, they charge double the price of the massage parlor, and then they provide massage, erotic massage, but also the girlfriend experience services. So what is GFE service? So people ask me this all the time. Why is it more expensive? Well, the girlfriend experience services requires a woman not to wear a condom during the sexual service sessions. So there is a girlfriend experience, and then there's also girlfriend experience plus services. Okay, so if you do the girlfriend experience plus service, that means that the women are not allowed to wear condom, and the men are able to have sexual intercourse as much as he wants. So as we talked about this, so this is just an example of a price chart from several years ago in DC. This was a advertisement from a Korean GFB brothel. And as you can tell, if you go into rawmap.com, most of the time the massage parlors, their happy ending or whatever full service costs about $60, sometimes $40 and $20 or $80 at the max. I've seen $100, but that's not that's non-Asian victims cases or woman cases. But with the GFE brothels, they charge a double for double of what people charge in massage parlor, and GFE Plus will be a little more expensive than GFE. This is an example of an advertisement. As you can tell, that they have a very specific personalized advertisement for the brothel, as opposed to rawmap.com just lists a whole bunch of entities or brothels and massage parlors and with a phone number and addresses. But this whole advertisement is dedicated to this specific brothel. So also, because they spend a lot of money on this advertisement, they're also able to create personalized website every 3 months, just so that they can avoid the detection of the law enforcement. So it's a lot harder to catch these brothels than those that are advertised on rawmap.com. The reason why is that they want to they have a specialized advertisement person who is helping these brothels to market. The advertiser alone makes about $1 million a year off of helping facilitating the marketing places for the multiple brothels. Another thing, the unique about the indoor brothel is the plastic surgery. So in the past, the way it worked is that most of Asian victims, whether they're Korean or Chinese, Taiwanese, or Thai, they all have smuggling debt. Well, that's kind of changed in 2008. In 2008, the U.S. government implemented a new policy that the South Korean citizens and also Taiwanese citizens can travel without visa up to 3 months. So since then, you see more of the Korean victims who had been, I say victims, but they had been victimized in their own country and coming here to pay off their debt. They travel to the U.S. with the under the visa waiver program, and they go back after 3 months, and then they come back again and go back. Okay, so that has been a trend. So since we got rid of the reason for smuggling, how are these people making money off of expensive loan shark services or debt bondage service, right? Well, they move on to the plastic surgery. So as you can tell, it says that, these people sort of have like a similar facial structure. This is the Korean victims. Their breast size is 34 double D. That is not scientifically proved. This is the documented fact that average Korean woman, for instance, right? Average Korean woman has a breast size of cup A, right? Whatever you call it, A, the smallest breast size. Whenever you see this sign 34D double D or 34C 36D whatever, or it'll say like they are all natural, this is all natural, no surgery. Like people don't care whether you get a plastic surgery or not in the society, but in the commercial sex market in South Korea or other countries, it matters whether these breast is either plastic surgery or all natural, right? So because we deal with these brothel owners who are also from Korea or China or all the other Asian cultural background, they make a statement like, this is all natural. Okay, so like, because that matters to Korean customers, and it was an important factor in their own country, so they're bringing their own criminal practice here, and then they're just using it as part of operation. Before I go into organized crime, you also will notice these, I don't know if you can see, because the picture is so small, you will see the eye shapes, right? Eye shapes and the nose shapes and the lips, and they also have the jaw surgery. It's kind of similar to the K-pop stars. When they are required to get plastic surgery, it's not just the breast augmentation. It's not just double lift eyelash, or it's not just your lip surgery or Botox, whatever. It's from head to toe. Otherwise, these people are not able to hold a woman enough under debt, because it's not going to be enough money to put them under debt bondage. The organized criminal network behind different brothel models. So unlike the domestic minor sex trafficking market or strip clubs or what else was there? What else was out there? Pimping, all the other, or cantinas, all the other different brothels that are advertised, and you have seen in the cases. Really, the Asian market is the brokers. I will say it's a broker-centric market. You're gonna ask me what brokers are. Brokers are those facilitators. We looked at these people who are supporting these entities for the financial source, right? Money laundering, tax evasion, accounting process, fraudulent accounting process, or visa fraud or document. These are the brokers who are handling these services so that they can profit off of multiple brothel operations. So because they deal with the multiple brothel operation, they make a lot more money than just one massage parlor run by mom and pop, or just pimp or a sex trafficker from domestic minor sex trafficking operations. So the mandatory elements behind the sex market includes, we talked about this earlier, but these are, so when you get when you look at the mandatory elements behind the Asian sex market, you're really dealing with the brokers. So when you catch one smuggler, most likely you are going to catch a multiple brothel operation. When you're catching the one money launderer, you're gonna see a money launderer supporting multiple brothel operation for money laundering business. when you catch it, when you catch the visa fraud person, you're gonna see it's not only supporting the sex trafficking, but also supporting the labor trafficking in not just in massage parlor, but also restaurants, construction, or any other aspect of market that you can find. This is an example of room salon. Room salon is it's a hostess bar. It's they charge the customer per table, and I didn't include the room salon example because I haven't found any room salons in Pennsylvania. But this is just an example to show how the market works based on the broker-centric approach. So Myung Roberts was the madam of this room salon, and she was she was working with a manager. She also had a visa broker, and then separate recruiter from recruiting women from Korea to the U.S. and then the landlord. So as you can tell, she may be a madam who's running a massage parlor, but she had 4 other facilitator or brokers that she was relying on to successfully carry out her operation. This is an example of financial brokers advertisement. A lot of time the brokers are expand their business through word of mouth, because when you're committing illicit activities, crime, it's important that you find somebody that you trust. So a lot of time the massage parlor owners share the same account. And I had this one investigator in South Carolina who came to my training and said, based on my training, well, the law enforcement training, my training lasted about 8 hours, but that one was more about an hour and a half. So he was saying that he found, based on my training, a broker-centric approach, that he found an accountant who was supporting 7 or 8 brothels that are, based in South Carolina. So, his main operation was dealing with this one Chinese lady who was running the massage parlor network nationwide. But just by tracing the broker, he also found a lot of other entities that are committing the same crime. But sometimes, even though most of the time they find these brokers through word of mouth, sometimes they make an advertisement this is from Korea to America, delivery, any other delivery. You mentioned it, we get it. So what do you think they said? What do you think they mean by any other delivery? So when they say this vague statement, any other delivery, it can be anything. It can be drug, it can be fraudulent visa, it can be cash, it can be, I don't know, you name anything that's not legal. Like, so this delivery guy it's not just a regular delivery guy. This guy is a very specialized delivery guy to help these brothel owners operate safely in the United States under the law enforcement detection. This is an example of an advertisement of a massage parlor license broker. Basically, his name is Ryan Kim, he says. It was advertised in 2018, March 23. This advertisement was based in New York, but you can access anywhere. So he said, I help license application. Virginia, Florida, Michigan, any other state license, we help you with the application. Call 571, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is another real case example. It never was prosecuted, but it was a case that I was working with a retired FBI agent. So long story short, this guy named, Miss Lee was our client. So a client was somehow integral into operating a brothel, right? Massage parlor. And it turned out to be, she was kind of defrauded into running a massage parlor, but she was under debt. So she was forced into opening a massage parlor, right? That's, by the way, is increasingly becoming common among South Koreans and also the Korean Chinese. Okay. So long story short, this guy named Tony. Okay, we're gonna call him Tony. Okay, so Tony drives Uber. Okay, and we asked Miss Lee about Tony. So like, who is this guy named Tony, right? And he said, oh, she said he's such a bad guy. He basically delivers, right? He's a delivery person, right? He delivers women. His job is to deliver condom. His job is to recruit women. His job is to also take the woman, provide transportation service to the gambling site or the shopping center. Okay, so you think of gambling, maybe gambling, but like when you think of shopping center, right, you really don't think much of it. But it's not just the shopping center. It's not just any shopping center. This is a shopping mall, like Chanel or Louis Vuitton. Their purse costs $10,000 or $20,000. Okay, so these women, whenever they have bad day, this guy will take this woman to the shopping, or this guy will take this woman to the gambling side, and the woman don't have money, then this guy also loan this money to these women by kind of encouraging her. It's like, oh, I can loan you $1,000. I can loan you like $10,000. So, you're gonna have fun, whatever, right? So he also most likely have network of people who entrap these women into the deeper debt through illicit gambling. So the way it works is that you work with a different individual to make it look like initially that this woman are, earning $10,000 or $20,000 per gambling session, right? You spend $1,000, you earn $10,000. So by the time she feels that, okay, I'm good at it, then the debt started to add up, because that's when she's gonna start losing the gambling. So this guy also charges about 30% of the daily or weekly income, the interest rate per the debt, the money that she loaned to the woman, and the woman had to pay back through prostitution, this one woman who had to pay him back by opening up a brothel for this guy with her name in another state. Okay, so when I asked her about what does he do, why does he have a $700,000 worth of property in your suburb area outside of DC? Because that's not every day, and he drives Uber. She said he's an Uber driver. I don't know any other Uber driver who makes that much money to own the $700,000 property, right? So that kind of shows a sign of illicit activity that he's been carrying out behind the scene. But however, again, he's not actually running the brothel. Okay, so he's coercing other people into running the brothel and also engaging in prostitution in massage parlors by conducting loan shark services, working with other brothels. So when I say broker-centric approach to investigation, this is what I meant. So what is the difference between Asian and domestic sex trafficking victims? There are a lot of differences, but really 80% of the time that Asian victims are very kind of vague. One day they're doing it on their own, the next day they're sex trafficking victims. Okay, this is very vague. The case of a TY story was that she entered the US with her own volition of engaging in commercial sex, but she didn't know that she had to be available for 24 hours for services. And she also didn't realize her debt will increase from $7,000 to $17,000. And then she also didn't realize that she wasn't able to leave the property without accompanying any other women. So she came here on her own volition, but in actuality, she was doing a lot of things against her will. So the real difference, I think the biggest difference between the Asian and domestic victims are domestic victims are more entrapped with the domestic minor sex trafficking victims are entrapped with more sense of belonging, was like a psychological bond, as opposed to Asian victims are financial bondage. exploitation. So the past event mainly include the Alternative Intervention Court. We have it in Ohio, and they also have it in New York as well. It's happened, finding out this really doesn't work because it's not targeting their debt bondage situation. I'm gonna go a little faster because we're running out of time. I want to make sure that you guys have time to ask questions. So in terms of education level for the Korean victims, 50% of them have college, 4 years college degree, as opposed to Chinese victims have only maybe high school or sometimes middle school and elementary school. So within the Asian victims, there is a difference between Korean and Chinese victims. So what are the recommended approach to fight trafficking? We need sector-specific law enforcement program, meaning Trafficking 101 is not going to be able to target the problem that we have with the Asian sex trafficking market. Also, I recommend the more financial exploitation-centered question, as opposed to a lot of the victim identification tools are very catered to Asian victims. Asian victims are more afraid of, if I escape, I'm gonna face organized criminals who will come after my family, as opposed to domestic violence or domestic victims will be afraid of, like, who's gonna love me. So when victims are not willing to speak, then a lot of times she's not really willing to collaborate. That means that you don't stop investigating, you go plan B. The plan B means money laundering. So the money laundering will allow to catch all the different bad guys, including the ones that the victims are not aware of. And that way we can catch the all bad guy instead of just one or two mom and pops places. Questions?
Hi, Young B. There was one question, and actually it was posed by myself. This is Tracy. Do the women have to get the plastic surgery? And if they say they don't want it, are there consequences?
Yes. So plastic surgery, a lot of time is not conducted by their own volition. There are several different cases. So the first thing was, well, I guess I can tell you the most popular case. The most popular case is that, let's say the woman has they kind of look at women as products, right? As a brothel owner, you look at women as a product. So this one girl, let's say her name is Annie. With Annie, I made $100,000, right? But Annie works so hard and she didn't take out any loans, so any more loans. It's hard for me to trap Annie under financial debt bondage, and then keep her in my brothel, right? At that time, I need to find ways for Annie to stay in my business as long as she can. So what I do as a madam, I will work with a plastic surgeon and I will work with the loan shark company to entrap Annie into deeper debt bondage. I, as a madam, has control over her schedule. So if I don't like Annie, or if I don't like what she does, I don't have to schedule her. If I don't schedule her, a lot of time that she accrue more debt just overnight. Say there's a debt type called ilsu. It means that you pay the money every day. So every day, she's incurring 10% of her the whole debt overnight. So, and that's compounded. So let's say she owe $1,000. So she doesn't work one day because I'm not allowing her to see the customer. Then the next day she owes me $1,100 plus compound interest. So that's the next day she'll owe $1,210. That makes sense. So because of that, like Annie is smart enough to know that, okay, as much as I say no, then I'm gonna have more debt. So I'm gonna have to say yes to my plastic surgery. So that is a typical case. And there are other cases that are involved, a little different.
Okay. I don't see any other questions. We've also checked the chat. If any of you have questions of Young B. Dale, that is her email, or where she can be reached at dale-consulting.com. And I don't have any other questions for you. I'm going to say, everybody, we made it through our second day of the Pathways Conference, and we'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to click the button and end the broadcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you.